Good morning and welcome back to Deep Blue Garage. Last night we left off cutting some parts of the frame. The goal of today is to probably light some stuff on fire, probably stare at the frame a lot, and by lighting some stuff on fire and staring at the frame a lot, maybe I'll use the Hobart hot glue gun to glue some metal together, and at the end of it we will have the front end completely installed, well, completely bolted in. Still gonna do the steering shaft. I mentioned that I was gonna 3D print a new bushing for the steering shaft, so there is the prototype for that. Here's some pictures of it, pop them up on the screen. Prototype fit great, but there is some improvements that I'm going to make. I'm going to make a recess for a bearing, so it'll be a ball bearing instead of just a plastic bushing. I definitely think that the ball bearing will last longer than the plastic bushing. And then my wife is on the way to go get a dehydrator so that I can dry out my nylon and my PETG so that I can make the final product. I was kind of surprised the first fit up went perfectly and the prototype fit in there exactly how I wanted to. I don't know if that's gonna be the steering rack that I use, but I'm gonna go ahead and plan for that right now. And then if something changes, it's just a couple dollars in filament, or a couple, not even a couple dollars, probably maybe $1 in filament, and a couple bucks in bearings to make it where it's good to steer for right now. And then later on, if I decide to use a different steering column, then we'll figure it out from there. But for now, let's steer at this frame, and then I'll use some CAD to design up a new mount, and we'll cut out of the 3/16 plate that I've got on my nice plasma cutting table, and then we'll hot glue it together. And I think that at the end of that we should be good to go. All right, let's get to it. Alright, so we got the CAD files for this side all complete. So, if you're wondering, CAD is cardboard assisted design. So we got a piece that brings together the frame to the bracket right there. Got the base plate right there. Got a little frame extension that goes straight down from the frame. And a little pocket up here. I am going to have to drill a hole in the very corner so water doesn't build up. And then on the outside, right here, so this is the whole frame. This one piece over here goes straight like that. So it makes a little reinforcement there. Then this guy is going to go right here and get welded in the whole way. So that'll look like that. And then this piece right here, I'm gonna clean this the bottom of the cab mount up right here, and as you can see, cab mount is also probably 1/8 inch, so it's pretty strong. And then this piece will go right in there. So now all that I have to do is transfer all this over to the plate, and then I'll cut it out. And that is CAD. Pretty easy. And then also, while I was in there getting all the CAD finished, if you remember, there was this section of the frame right here that's been cut away by the previous owner. And it doesn't really look like this side. They cut it out for some headers, and I imagine that maybe I will in the end, but I don't think I'm going to. I don't think it's going to end up getting headers, but I made a little template right here. See, match marked on the bottom side, but let's see here. So I gotta clean the frame up to match the template, but it'll go just like that and have the original curve. I used the other side, just copied it onto some cardboard and knocked it out. So it'll go all the way to the back side of that square right there, and then I'm going to come across at an angle so that it'll clear the frame mount, or the cab mount right there. It's on the bottom side. The cab mount's got a rivet, so I got to clear that. And then once that's done, I'll be able to weld in the whole thing. So time to get cutting. Alright, so I got all my CAD files laid out on the CNC scissor table. Now I'm gonna get them all cut out, and once they're all cut out, I'll check the fit on them, clean them up, and then check on the other side and see if they fit upside down, which hopefully they'll be at least close. And I'll modify the pieces that need to be modified before I weld the stuff together, because once they're welded together, it's gonna be a lot harder to turn it upside down, inside out, backwards to get it to fit up. But so I got all the pieces cut out, and they still have to be cleaned up because obviously there's a lot of slag on them, but I guess we'll see how well that worked and if those are usable pieces. If not, I'll come back and do the next set with the angle grinder, but I tried to cut them big, if anything, so like you can see the triangle right there is what I'm going to be using. Try to cut it big so that I can grind it back and get all the slag off. But now it's time to clean up. Now we got all the pieces cut out, cleaned up. Plasma cutter, probably not the right tool for the job, and I'm gonna try using something else for the other side because it made a mess and made for a lot of cleanup. I think for some things it's really good, but for this particular purpose where I'm trying to cut out actual designs and stuff, not the right idea. So quicker was definitely not faster. Let's test fit them out and see what we get. Alright, so all the pieces fit with a little bit of trimming, but those are all good to go now. So I'm going to transfer the stencil again, and we'll get it on the other side. And then once they're all done, everything will be like a mirror image, and that should be good to go. So I'll probably get it tacked in tonight. I doubt I'll get it welded in tonight because it's already getting late, but I'll get the most done that I can. And then if I can't, whatever I can't get done, we'll work on tomorrow. And so welcome back this morning. This is still a continuation of getting these plates made. Last night we got all the plates, or all the pieces made for both sides, but it ended up getting late. So today we're going to get them welded in. I gotta clean up before we start because it's a mess and I'm not working in a mess. If you start with a mess, you end with a mess. But if you start clean, good chance you'll end up with a better product, like I said before. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get cleaned up and then we'll get to work. So now that we got it all cleaned up, we can get to work. I have a little bit of cleaning up to do on the one of the sets of brackets. This set the plasma cut. The other set is all cleaned up and chamfered and ready to weld in. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the set that I did not clean up yesterday. And once we get that all cleaned up, be ready to start welding. Alright, so we got all the pieces cleaned up, got all the edges chamfered so we can get a good, nice weld on them. And got all the, I guess it's some sort of coating off of the base plates. So we get a nice weld on those as well, because there's going to be stuff sitting right up against those to weld against. And now we need to do the same thing to the frame. Get that cleaned up. Once we get that cleaned up, we'll be ready to weld. All the places that we're going to be welding against, we got all those cleaned up. Got all the pieces cleaned up. I guess now it is time to start tacking stuff in. And once we got it all tacked in, I'll lower the subframe, get it out of the way so that I got plenty of room to work. I think that's the best plan. But let's get to it. I decided to go ahead and weld this up all the way on the outside. I just started welding and kind of just continued. So, pretty happy with that. It'll definitely stick. I still got to do the inside, but I'm really happy with how that turned out. Even got under there, and I got a little bit on the top already, but yeah, pretty happy with that. The other side tacked in, I went ahead and filled in that center. I had a little bit of a gap right there, but I built it up and then bridged it over. So I think it'll work out great. Just need to clean it up a little bit. And then I'm gonna go ahead and lower the subframe out of the way. Get it out of the way so that I can weld and not have to worry about it. And go in and out in between the frame rails and not have it in my way. So let's get it out of the way. So 4 minutes later, got the whole subframe out. That's made this project so easy, is being able to take that thing in and out. So now we'll get in here, weld that up, and then figure out what we're gonna do from here to there. I still gotta shape a piece out for that. So that'll be fun, but that's about it. Huh? Oh, and then I also have the new piece for right there to fix that, so probably do that today as well. Might as well. That way we can get this whole front end painted again, or the areas that need to be painted again, and then get the top coat on it, which I'm going to try spraying it this time. I've got a spray gun, and I also finally bought a paint mask. That should be here today at some point, which I have one to use before then, but I'd rather wait and use the good one that I ordered. Let's get to welding. I got this side welded up too. On both sides I still need to connect the frame rail back there to this little ear right there. I probably should have just made those like a square instead of contouring right there with the bracket, but I didn't think about that until after I had already cut everything, was already welding stuff in. So it's gonna be a little bit more work to get it all tied in, but oh well. I've done work before and I can do it again. So that is what I'm gonna work on now, is get that tied into there, and then also get this section cut out and ready to accept the new piece right there. Let's get to it. Good morning, welcome back to Deep Blue Garage. We're here for day 47 3/4, I think, of installing the Crown Vic front end. I know I'm going pretty slow, but I'm doing it exactly how I want to, and it's coming out pretty good. Yesterday we got the brackets welded in, and we also got this section of the frame fixed right here where it was chewed up before. I'll put a picture of that in, but once we got it all fixed, we test fitted everything and it all fits like it should. The front end fits great in there. We put the front bumper back on just to, while we're welding, to keep everything where it's supposed to be, so that when we go to put the front end back in, that it hasn't warped, the frame hasn't shifted at all. I think that's pretty important. But today, what I want to do is, you can see that front ear right here and the frame lobe right there. I want to connect the two of those, and I didn't have a torch last night, so I couldn't do that, but my wife went and got a MAP gas torch so I can weld it in to that frame, and then I can bend it to match the other part of the frame, so that it looks neater and takes away a lot of the complicated geometry by being able to bend the metal. But let's get working. Alright, so we got the patch piece in there, and would have made my life a lot easier if I would have just made that one, the big tab, if I would have just made it one big piece, because now I'm welding in material that I could have just kept there, but I didn't know at the time, and now I'm paying for it. But oh well, that's what we got a welder for. So we got that patch plate welded in, and then we're going to take the end of it right there and bend it down to meet that piece. That's the goal, at least. Hopefully it works out. Alright, so this bracket is all done. Instead of welding that up in the corner, I decided to drill it, make it a nice smooth hole so it's not a stress issue. I don't know that welding it would do any extra good, and there's plenty of extra Swiss cheese right there, so that's what I decided to do. I think it'll be fine. It's gonna get painted over, but got it nice and done right there. It comes up just like that. Maybe that'll become a useful area in the future. Maybe I'll need that spot for exhaust or something, who knows. But on the outside, so that that pocket doesn't fill up with water, I'm going to drill a hole right there, which will be in the bottom of that cavity. And then once that's all done, I'm going to clean this all up and then start work on the other side. Can't believe it's taken me so long to get this one side done, but yeah, the other side hopefully will go a little bit faster, but I don't know if it will or not. We got this side welded in, and that went a lot better. I put a bigger chamfer on it, and the upper weld went a lot better, and I went ahead and welded on the bottom as well, just to give it a little bit of extra strength. I don't know if it made much of a difference. It was already penetrated through, but it made me feel better about it. So in the end, I think that's really the big thing, is be comfortable with the work that I'm doing, make sure that it's gonna be safe in the end. But now we are gonna try and connect that to there and use some MAP gas. Well, I'm gonna grind this down, so because it'll be way easier to grind now than it will be later. Grind it down and then use some MAP gas and heat up the metal and bend it down to meet there. Hopefully we'll meet in the rear first. But Well, hopefully that'll go well. So this piece is in place. Actually went a little bit smoother than the other side. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's get it welded. Both of them are done. Welded in, grinded down, sanded down. They are 100%, 90% complete. I still need to drill the holes, the mounting holes. I did go ahead and fill in the holes on the very back where I originally drilled a hole. I thought about it and it didn't seem like there was really a whole lot of good brain and keeping those or drilling those holes other than just sheer laziness. So instead of being lazy, I went ahead and filled those in from the top and the bottom, make sure that it was all at least as strong as it was from the factory. But all that's left is to drill the holes and paint. So there's a little pocket right there. I did put a hole in the bottom of each of those pockets so that water wouldn't accumulate. That way, if there's any rust or any water in there, it's not going to stick there and rust. That's the last thing I want to do, is have to deal with any rust on here in the future. I'm working so hard to get the rust off now that I don't want to deal with any rust in the future, and I don't want my stepdad to have to deal with any rust in the future either. So definitely trying to think this out, and it's all going to get pour 15, so shouldn't have to worry about rust in the future anyways. It's all getting wire wheeled down to bare metal and then going through the pour 15 process. So yeah, once I drill those, I don't know which order I'm going to do. If I'm going to drill the holes first and then clean everything up and then paint it, but I do need to get it painted tonight. It's good weather to get it painted tonight. It's a little chilly, but I got the heater going in here. I got the garage door open right now, so it's not super cold in here, or not super warm in here right now, but I'll get it warm before I paint it. But yeah, it was a lot of work, but it's all done now and ready to drill the holes, and I could just bolt it right back in, but I'm going to get it painted and go from there. the first coat of paint is on. So I got the nuts welded in. I forgot to weld them in at first, and then I remembered, so I had to take some a rag with some acetone on it, wipe off the areas where I was going to weld, and then I had to come in a wire wheel inside because I didn't have fresh paint on one of those holes. So the acetone works really good on fresh paint. Doesn't work very well on non-fresh paint. But I got all the nuts welded in there, and got the first coat of paint on. As you can see, I put a bolt in the nuts so that I didn't have to go through the paint when I go to put the bolts in. Just like that. So there's bolts in those. But the first coat of paint is on, and I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes to dry, and then I'll put the second coat on and give that a little bit to dry, and then it'll be time for the top coat, which I'm going to spray. So I haven't sprayed it before, but I'm going to give it a shot. I got a cheap Harbor Freight gun, and if it clogs up the gun, it clogs up the gun. It's not a big deal. But I'm going to give it a shot now that I got a good respirator. So, yeah. Alright, so we just got done spraying the top coat. We used a 415 top coat, sprayed through a Harbor Freight gun, and I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. It's a few runs here and there, but nothing too bad, and it's on the frame, so it's really never gonna get seen, but now it is protected up to there on both sides. This is, so we used the 415 degreaser, the 415 metal prep, the 415 I don't remember what it's called, the base coat, and then the 415 top coat. So the entire 415 system. Does look like a little bit much right in there. You can see it. There's quite a bit extra in there, but leave it there, it'll dry out. I'm not gonna mount the frame tonight. Don't need to. I'll give it overnight. Got the heater going in here, so hopefully it'll bake pretty good. And you can see just how nice the finish is in some areas, like that. All on the top looks really, really nice. And that's where we did the repair. Can't even tell anymore. Nice shiny. And the outside looks really nice too. And I went ahead and sprayed a little bit on there just because I wanted to see what it would look like just by itself. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. The Harbor Freight spray gun sprayed it fairly well. It was a little bit slow going. It didn't put out a lot of product, so I had to move pretty slow, which air compressor wasn't super happy with, but I got over it and did the job. Took a couple breaks, did the outside of that frame rail, let the compressor charge back up, did the inside of the frame rail, let it charge back up, inside, outside, and then the tops, or the bottoms and tops were in there at some point as well. But I'm really happy with how it turned out.